Hey, welcome back to the North Florida Sports Network. It's not a football Monday. You're traveling. But it's Tuesday. We got a big show for you. I got an interview with Chris Cotter from ESPN. He's going to come on. I'm going to ask him about the Louisville Cardinals as he was in Louisville last week doing the game against Batten. It looks like the Noles are going to play Louisville and Charlotte, barring an upset here in the next few weeks. We're going to ask Chris about what he thinks about Louisville, ask him about Florida State, and we'll obviously ask him about his workout routine because that dude lifts heavy. We're going to get Jimmy Reno in here, ask him about the game this past weekend in Pitt. We're going to talk about all the games. We'll get the unrealized moment of the week. We got a lot of nominations, man. If you haven't done so, you need to download and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. The podcast is available everywhere. You can X the show at the NFLSN. And if you have a question for the show, please email me, Austin at the NFLSN.com. Well, we got Chris Cotter coming up next, and then we're going to open up the discussion with Jimmy Reno about the game, and then we'll bring Big Time Nolan to cap it off. So keep it locked. Let's get it started. All right. The North Florida Sport. All right, we got Chris Cotter on. I saw him in the airport, and I flagged him down, and he agreed to come on. He just got back from doing the Louisville game. So I know a lot of you FSU fans are starting to look at Louisville because it's a possible matchup in Charlotte. Chris, welcome to the North Florida Sports Network, man.
Oh, good to be here, man.
You know, I know you were in Louisville, and then they took care of business. How did they look in person?
They're really good. And what makes them so good, I think, is they're just a complete team. Like, obviously Jeff Brom comes there with an offensive background. And you think they're going to be able to move the football up and down the field, especially in the passing game. And yet you really look at what they've been able to do offensively. It's the ground game. And even when you have Jawar Jordan, who's a home run hitter type of a tailback, banged up the last couple of weeks, he hasn't been 100%. He really wasn't. I don't think he was 100% in our game either. And
yeah.
Isaac Garendo, he's more of a big banger that they got from Wisconsin, transferred in. He goes for a career high, over 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. So they can run the football, and that's what they want to do first. It isn't about Brom lighting up through the air.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think eventually maybe he would like to do that, but
right.
I also think everything starts with him on the ground. They can run the football, and then they play defense. That team rushes the quarterback.
Right.
You know, Ashton Gelati's really good on the edge, and collectively they're a very underrated defense. So I think that's the reason why I like them so much is when you look at the ACC and even kind of that big group of teams that have 2 losses in conference,
yeah,
their flaws are much more pronounced than Louisville. I think Louisville is the most complete team to be able to challenge Florida State. And the only teams, when I look at the standings, from what I see, that could prevent Louisville from getting to that championship game would be the winner of the North Carolina State-North Carolina game, because neither one of those teams is going to play Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
The other teams that play Louisville, if Louisville gets by Virginia this week, they'll have wins over all those teams and will win the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I see that as just almost, it's not official, but I would be shocked if they lost another game until the ACC championship. You know, I thought Virginia Tech, you know, was playing really well before the game. I saw them in person here. They looked like a different team, but they didn't, and I actually thought they were going to upset Louisville. So I might get the unrealized idea of the week here. But what did you see out of, Virginia Tech struggled. They didn't really get it. They were only 2 of 11 on third down.
Yeah. I like what Coach Pry's doing there. It's just a little too soon for them.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're rebuilding, and you know I like Drones as a quarterback, but he's like an H-back playing quarterback. He's a big, powerful runner, and their passing game just isn't as refined as it needs to be. So when you get down in a game,
right,
and you're not doing well on first down, and all of a sudden you got second and long, third and long, and you got a team that can rush the passer in Louisville and they're pinning their ears back. That's really tough on a team that doesn't have the ability to really do everything you would hope that they could do offensively. And that's what happened in the game.
Yep.
It just got to be, a bull rush from that Louisville defense, and Drones really didn't have any answer for it.
Yeah. Well, I know I was looking into and I know you're big into the lacrosse. You're like the head guy at ESPN lacrosse.
I do a lot of it. Yeah.
Is that something you did earlier in your life, growing up playing lacrosse?
I did. I grew up playing it. I went to Georgia Tech and I played on their club lacrosse team.
Okay.
And then, I really wasn't really doing it in broadcasting or anything for a long time until I got to ESPN, and Eamon McEnany was the number one lacrosse guy. He left and went to the Mets Network in New York. So that's when I started to do a lot more lacrosse. That's about probably 8 years ago, maybe. And it's kind of evolved into every spring I do college baseball and I do college lacrosse. And in the summer, 2 years ago, we signed on the PLL, the Pro Lacrosse League. So I do that all summer long.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, you have to find time to, get into the gym though, Chris, man. Goodness gracious, man. That's what I really want you on the show, man. What do you think about when you were doing bicep curls? Because what is the motivation, man? I'm an FSU fan at heart, and I know I'd be in the gym, right? And I'm sitting there lifting weights, and someone would be like, all right, man, you're doing a lot of weight. Think of something you don't like. And I'd be like, Urban Meyer, and I'd get it. So what is it that you go for when you're lifting something really heavy?
Honestly, my motivation is kind of always been the same thing. I just want to push myself to the absolute, Yeah. I mean, I've always excelled in, less in stick and ball sports where you have to be blessed with great hand-eye coordination and whatnot, and more in sports like I was a cyclist growing up.
Okay.
Sports that, the more pain you can put yourself through, the better off you'll be, or you don't have to have a lot of God-given talent. It's more about how much work you're willing to put in. And that's kind of what I like about it. So I just want to push myself every single time in the gym to lift as much as I can, to go as hard as I can, to be as worn out as I possibly can at the end. And that kind of is what drives me. Man,
that's awesome, dude. I remember watching you, and then I heard you on some radio shows, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, who's at the gym? But watch out for Chris Cotter. I was able to do another Chris from ESPN last year, Chris Fowler. And he doesn't miss that many days either, but I gotta say, man, you got him beat in the arm department.
No,
man.
I don't know. There's always a conversation around ESPN about us. Cause Fowler hurt his knee really bad a few years back. So he's kind of bouncing back from that. He definitely has more cardiovascular endurance than I do. He's climbing all those mountains in Colorado and whatnot. I couldn't do that, 14,000 foot. I'd be sick to my stomach. But Fowler's got a lot of that. And he's a little bit older than I am. He's not that much older than I am. He's got that old man strength working for him too.
Yeah, and he does. He has some. He's got some big arms as well. Who do you got this week, Chris?
I've got an interesting game, and it's interesting mostly because of where it's being played. I got Syracuse and Pitt at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, so wow.
It's the 100th anniversary of when they played the first game at Yankee Stadium, the first football game that was ever played at Yankee Stadium was between Pitt and Syracuse. And so it's the 100th anniversary of that. That's why they're playing it there. Both teams are mightily struggling, though, right now. I mean, it's going to be a game of, Schrader's been hurt for Syracuse, so we got to see if he can play. That's going to be a big difference for them. Pitt's been looking for their quarterback, really since Pickett left.
Right.
So it's kind of like it's two teams that are really searching at this point in time in the year, but it could be, it could be a barn burner.
It really could. I thought Pitt
both teams throwing caution to the wind and just, hey, we got nothing else to lose at this point.
Well, I mean, yeah, and you're in New York with the atmosphere. I liked Pitt's effort last week. I thought they really brought it after being really kind of embarrassed in Notre Dame. They brought the effort on this past Saturday. They just lacked that quarterback position, it seems like. I think you nailed that one. FSU will be playing Miami. You did a lot of FSU games recently when FSU was down. What's been impressive about their rise back up to the top of college football?
I mean, I think it sort of echoes with what I said about Louisville. It's just a complete team. You know, you think about, like you said, these last couple of years, they did a lot of building through the transfer portal, like Jermaine Johnson coming in. It was really good. Kind of that stopgap of a year or two until you get those great freshman classes to start getting to the age where they can really start contributing. And that's where they are now. And I think, Jordan Travis was sort of the first one that was like, high level recruit. Let's deal with the first couple of years of good and bad, like you're going to get. It's kind of like what Boston College is doing with Castellanos right now. Deal with the good and the bad, because freshman, sophomore, you're going to get both of them. And then when he's an upperclassman, all of a sudden, it's like last year, at the end of last year, he just blossomed, And now you've got a guy who is in complete control of the game. It's even like some games, he doesn't even put up huge numbers, but he's in complete control of the game. And I think that's the big thing, is that he carries now and lifts everybody else up on that offense because of him just being in control. And you got pieces all over the field. Like, you've got every piece where you could, and the depth is there. Like, you lose Wilson, right? Wilson is gone basically the whole year. I mean, you had him for a couple of games, but he's your big receiver at the start of the year. Well, what are you going to do if you lose Wilson? Well, you have Keon Coleman, who's an All-American. It's like you got depth where guys are stepping up, and you just haven't had that, and that's what it takes to win. That's what the Alabamas and Georgias have every year. Now Florida State has it. Yep,
that's true. And they've been able to hit the transfer portal big time. You've seen Clemson kind of come to that kind of hit the hay this year. I think their lack of transfers really hurt them this year when it comes to depth, because, you have all these 4 and 5 stars. Well, you're not going to hit on all of them. And it's good to have, if it's available, you got to do it. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand we're not going to take transfers. I don't think you can have that in today's game.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's almost as it's not like wholesale transfers. I feel like that's more for teams that are really looking to rebuild and maybe need a stopgap for 1 or 2 years, but it's sprinkling in 3 or 4 or 5 guys throughout the offseason. I think that's what the best teams are doing right now.
Yep. So Georgia Tech, man, you were back there. Were you there when they won the national championship?
I was
all right,
junior,
man. Wow.
Junior that year, yeah.
They've had a really interesting time under Pease. They had where they beaten every ranked opponent they played and lost to every unranked ACC opponent. That's just an odd stat.
The ultimate roller coaster ride for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they've won until last weekend. They alternated wins and losses all year. Win, loss, win, loss. It was like, and you'd lose games like you'd get housed by Bowling Green.
Right.
Like, you didn't even lose. That they owned the second half of that game, and so you start to think, is Tech going to win another game the rest of the year? And then they beat Miami the next week. So you're like, okay, now things are great. Lose at home to Boston College, and maybe they'll lose the rest of their games. Oh no, you beat North Carolina. It's like every other week you think it's going to be, you throw in the towel and you're done, and then the next week you think, oh, they're going to go to a bowl game. So
yeah, do you still look at it like, I know you're a pro, but you're still a fan of the Yellow Jackets, right?
Yeah, but I've called them a couple of times this year, and it's never where it gets to the point where it's super frustrating. Like,
well, Louis Riddick was in the booth this past week, and he's a Pitt alum. So
yeah, you never even really think about that,
right?
I called them the basketball game once, and they lost on a half-court heave, right? And I remember thinking at the end of that game, if I didn't show my homerism during this loss, I never will.
Wow, you made it, man. Yeah. That's impressive. And as someone who's getting into this later, in life, trying to do this media thing, and like they tell you, hey, no cheering up here, and this is my first year doing it, so I'm getting used to that. But it's a blast. Chris, what are you working out today?
I got a back workout today, so I'm going to get in there, and right now I'm trying to just go as heavy as I can.
All right, heavy back.
I won't be in there very long because I'm getting too old to spend too much time in there if I go too heavy. So I'll make it short and sweet.
I saw a picture of you in the booth with Doug Flutie, man. Maybe is he got to get you on the Nugenics, man?
That's what I asked him. I was like, man, I need to get a double dosage of that Nugenics this week. You got some for me.
Well, Chris, man, I want to thank you again for doing this. We'll be watching you, man. Well, good luck up this week up in New York, and hopefully we'll talk to you again in the future.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks again.
Yep.
The North Florida Sports Network. I want to thank Chris Cotter for coming on. It's not Cotter. I think I just love saying cod so much.
It's the accent, man.
Yeah.
It's North Florida.
He's about to go do a huge back workout.
Yeah.
Force some pain on himself.
He lifts heavyweight, man.
Yeah. Real heavy.
My philosophy is different, low weight, light rep.
Low weight, light rep.
Yep.
Get out of there as fast as possible.
And that's my sales background.
He had a chance to do the Louisville game, man, and they look good. And that's going to be the matchup. And barring that they lose a game, but I don't think they will.
I mean, they could even lose a game, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Who else? Who gets the tiebreaker? And then I think you'd.
Right now, no one's going to beat them right now. They look like a complete team, and they're going to run the ball, especially 230 yards on the ground they had against Virginia Tech, who had been playing well. Speaking of just unrealized, and we'll get there later, we're going to hand out the unrealized moment of the week. But my unrealized pick of last week was picking Virginia Tech to upset Louisville.
Unrealized idea. Unrealized.
I mean, what the hell was I thinking?
I don't know, man. I think you thought that Virginia Tech was a little better than they are.
And maybe Louisville, like the loss, and Louisville lost to Pitt, got just handled 38-21. And, but Florida State survived. Business trip. Was that what you would call that one?
Yeah. Business after,
it was,
I get, they knew going into the game that they weren't going to have Keon Coleman.
right.
I don't know how early in the week, I guess,
Thinking they knew, because Norvell said after the game, and you can watch the press conference on our YouTube channel. But I asked him about Keon, and he said it was from last game. So that, and then we talked to Ja'Kai Douglas, he knew his role was going to be like that this week. So they knew, they were prepared. Ja'Kai Douglas had the game of his life. He was ready. All 5'7" of them.
Right. What's amazing is it wasn't even just Keon that was out. I mean, everybody knew that Wilson was
right. You were
questionable,
out. Yeah.
but you don't have Hakeem Williams.
Right.
And then I guess Deuce Spann was a game time scratch. I mean, we saw him get out there and warming up with the skill players, but they seemed to just hold him out. So business, but not so much business as usual.
Right.
You had some adversity before you even kicked off.
Yeah. And you could tell there was the explosive nature, was lacking with those two receivers out in particular. But Jordan Travis still threw the ball for 360 yards, which is impressive.
Yeah, it took a couple quarters for them to figure out how to hook up, him and Ja'Kai Douglas. Darian Williamson, Kentron Poitier, they did their best. Wasn't the best game for either one of them. I thought that, there was a lot of physicality from the Pitt defensive backs that went uncalled, but
big day for Kyle Morlock, 4 catches, 80 yards. Him and Ja'Kai Douglas were your two top receivers on the day.
Tight ends in general, man.
Yeah, Big Biscuit had another touchdown.
They combined for close to 150 yards. It was like 144 between the three of them.
Yep. And, man, you would really like to have a Hakeem Williams in this game.
Yeah.
I thought he could have really done a lot in the short passing game.
Short passing game, and, those defensive backs, Devin Shire, especially for Pitt, he's going to be playing on Sundays. They're physical, man. They get up at you at the line. They don't let you get a free release. Williamson and Kentron, man, they were having issues with that. Ja'Kai was as well, but he's quick enough and shifty enough to kind of separate. And yeah, a guy like Hakeem Williams that's strong enough to take that initial push, but also has that breakaway speed. It would have been nice to have him. Any of them, him, Keon, or Johnny. Any just one of the three, I think, would have changed the passing game a lot. But they did a good job in the second half of finding ways to get it in the middle of the field. Tight ends, that was the matchup to exploit.
Florida State was shut out in the first quarter. I don't know about the decision. I know that it's the numbers and going with the.
You talking about the going for it there on fourth and goal? Yeah, I mean, he's always going to do it.
Yep, seems like it.
I don't. The play calls didn't really fool anybody. So you can
that early in the game. Sometimes it's good to get points. I don't know though, but he knows more than I do, obviously, and. It just thought at that moment, and then with the play calls as well, to run the ball 4th and 2. Option route or
you get into nitpicking when you get down there.
Well, they Florida, and then they had the big play on. There was like 82 yards, but Fintrell Cypress with the hustle play.
Yeah, you saw
got the strip right before the player crossed the goal line. Man, if that doesn't happen, Pitt's up 14-0.
The combination of what he did on that in terms of the makeup speed, to run it down, to strip the ball, and then to get back in bounds and recover it, so it's legal, not sit there touching the ball out of bounds, because then I believe they would put it at the 1 yard line. If he had stayed half of his body out of bounds and touched the ball in the end zone, I think the offense keeps it right there at the 1 yard line, if I'm not mistaken. But just the heady play of the entire sequence of events.
It was a hustle.
Yeah. I mean,
it was the being able to fight right to the end. But man, what a big play, and what a momentum shifting type of play. You could feel it.
And that was really the entire first half was kind of that play encompassed it. It was just kind of wild, man.
Florida State had to grind it out a little bit. They didn't really have the big play that they had until Benson struck.
Yeah.
And he's, they don't.
Well,
I like the only 12 carries, 97 yards for him.
And the offensive line leaning on that defense. You saw a number of times the defensive lineman going down for Pitt. Just to get off for a play or two. I mean, that's the running game. They want to get big and physical and be leaning on you. So late third quarter, you can get a play like that puts a dagger in it. It was a physical game, man. It was a hard-fought game. People, I think, they saw what happened to Pitt against Notre Dame and expected Florida State to just do the exact same thing, but that's not how football works.
No, and there's more parity now than I can ever remember in college football. I mean, because it really is. It used to be any given Sunday, but now any given Saturday, you don't bring it, or you're losing a couple guys. There's good enough players when they want to play and they're motivated.
Yeah, man. I mean, Pitt does as good a job as anybody in the country of developing defensive linemen. Anybody.
Yeah.
In terms of what they take in recruiting and the product that they put on the field. So right offhand, if you go up there and play them in Pitt, you're going to be in for a fight on offense. It's always been like that. We just haven't been up there in 10 years to see it. But it was, good business trip, man. Really, really enjoy. I think we picked the right one to, kick off the road tour on.
Oh, man, great people up there at Pitt, Celeste and
EJ. Yeah, they 100% class. Very hospitable the whole time, man. It was a really, really enjoyable experience.
It really was. It was a great experience. The Noles go to 9-0. It's a rivalry week. Hurricanes.
No, man.
Speaking of,
I'm not ready to get into that. Yeah.
Well, let's get into their performance against NC State. They thought they were 6-2. Maybe coming up here, playing primetime game in Tallahassee. Mario Cristobal, he's got the Canes rolling.
Unrealized idea. Unrealized.
That's a nomination for this week's Unrealized Idea. The Gators, they just got there. They were,
Brand new uniforms.
Right? They're wearing all black. They're wearing all black. You know, you just got your tails whooped in a rivalry game, but you're going back home where you've been really good. You got Arkansas coming in. We're going to get back on track. We're ahead of schedule.
Unrealized idea. Unrealized.
And those are 2 nominations for this week's Unrealized. You got any more?
I do, man. Burnt vegetables, man. Old Brent Venables, burnt vegetables himself, going into Bedlam for the last time for the foreseeable future. You know, you're going to go out on top, right out on the sunset, right? Stay in contention for the playoff and the Big 12 title.
Unrealized idea. Unrealized.
They went to a man. He's like 56.
He's 54 now. 6.
50
Yeah, hey.
He's over 40.
He's over 40.
They went to him and they lost. Any more? Let's see. What happened about? I know you're saying something about that Texas-Kansas State game.
Yeah, they overtime. Kansas State opts to try to win it on 4th and goal inside the 10 instead of tying it.
Well, all we got to do is wait. What was it? Fourth and
goal. I mean, it's
what yard
the 10.
line?
I don't know, man. Let's call it the 6.
Oh, and you're down 3.
You're down 3. You kick a field goal. You force double overtime.
Did you go for it?
You go for it. You're
unrealized idea. Unrealized.
Quarterback was going to try to throw a prayer up, ends up falling down before he gets it off. That's pretty bad.
Now when you got a chip shot right there.
Yeah.
Unrealized.
There we go.
idea.
That's the 4.
Unrealized.
All right. Oh, man. We get back-to-back winners here, possibly?
Possibly.
Oh, my goodness. You know, Miami though, man. You didn't even TBD. I mean,
something's up there. I hesitate to talk a whole lot about it because, you know.
Oh, you don't want to jinx it? They're going to.
No, man, I don't want the dude to come in here and do to us what he did to A&M. Like, that's my whole thing about that. It was like, it's clearly not an ability thing.
Right.
That guy went out there and threw 5 touchdowns against, a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. I get it. DJ Durkin is he's no Dick LeBeau, but something is up. I don't know if he's hurt or if there's friction within the dynamic of the offense going on up there. Who knows? But they're not the same team they were early in the season, clearly. Because NC State is not a strong team. Now, going up there to Carter Finley sucks. We know that. We all know that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't going to be an easy game. But 6 points is, that's not what anybody was expecting.
Oh, man. Who's going to get it? Who do you pick this week?
I got to pick Oklahoma, man. I like that. That's the reason I nominated them. They're sitting there, prime position still in conference if they win out.
Mm-hmm.
They got an outside shot at getting in.
They beat Texas.
Yeah, they beat Texas. They got that win, which is it's as good a premier win probably at the end of the season as, say, Oregon's over Washington. And they blow it. You got to find a way to beat Oklahoma State. I don't know. It wasn't. It's not the defense, man. 24 points. That's not what you're used to with Oklahoma with Jeff Lebby. They're not hanging their hat on being able to win scoring 24 points. They expect to score a lot more.
Well, I'm going to override you on that one.
Do it,
because this is the North Florida Sports Network, and it's got to go. It's got to go to the Miami offense.
Well, that's not North Florida, man.
You're right. But we talk Miami football a lot. I thought you were gonna go Napier there with the old. We're going Napier with the black uniforms.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, dude, because Miami lost in their black uniforms earlier this year.
So the black uniforms are
unrealized idea. Unrealized.
You might not see that in a while. You think you will? I doubt it.
What, for Florida State?
No, for Miami or Florida State.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, I would think you won't see that.
Florida State lost when they did all black.
They have. They've won a game or two when they've done all black. But yeah, I don't think
Going to the all black uniform. So back-to-back weeks, old Napier.
Unrealized idea.
Ooh.
Unrealized.
I mean, it's dude, last week was acceptable. Even with the boneheaded call in the first quarter, you're playing Georgia. You know, you're not getting hired with the expectation that, hey, you better be better than Georgia, by year 2. Arkansas is a dumpster fire coming into Gainesville.
Where was the tool shed of scheme? That was, where was that at?
Where has that been?
Unrealized idea. Unrealized.
Well, they better find it quick, man. They better get whatever shingles patched up that they need to on that shed, because they got LSU this week.
Yeah, well, Brian Kelly.
Oh.
Unrealized idea.
Yeah.
Unrealized.
Oh man, it is so weird seeing that defense be that soft.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it really is.
Just soft, dude. That's all you can say.
We knew what would happen. I mean, James Franklin did what he does, blow out teams that aren't Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah, everybody was, yeah.
Texas survives off a
unrealized idea. Unrealized.
From Kansas State not kicking the field goal. But man, the last Oklahoma State-Oklahoma game, I know Gundy's record's not that great in that, but they won't remember that.
No, they're not going to remember that.
That's sad.
You saw him in the locker room after the game. How about them Cowboys?
How about them?
Nod to Jimmy Johnson, man. I mean, Oklahoma's going off to the SEC. Good luck with that. I just, yeah. You called it, though, didn't you? Picked Oklahoma State to win that.
I did. Yeah. I did. But,
Oh, yeah. We haven't even touched on Sam Hartman and Notre Dame and his continued.
I saw that one coming, too.
Yeah. Unrealized idea.
Yeah. That's one that, finally get a crack at Clemson with a capable roster. And that pick 6.
Yep.
Kind of just clutched his heart out there.
And Dabo's selling stock.
Oh, he's buying all in on Clemson.
He's selling the Clemson stock.
Best 4-loss team in the country.
That's right. Yeah.
Who's better?
They're hosting North Carolina next week. I think they'll take care of business again.
Hey, they got a shot, man.
No, that's on the 18th.
Yeah, they're hosting Georgia Tech, I believe, coming up. Shipley's going to come back. I'm not sure that they really need him back. Maffa looks pretty good when he's...
Alabama looks good.
They do. They're running the ball. That's what they are. They're a team with a guy that's like a big running back that can throw a football a little bit, kind of like the Tebow model that Urban Meyer was doing. But hey, it's putting points on the board.
Yeah, they're making the right adjustments at halftime. It was LSU was winning, then all of a sudden, Alabama
the defense, they're soft, and I think they figured that out. We're gonna run it right down their throat. Alabama obviously made the defensive adjustments, and that's you hit Jaden Daniels enough, you'll rattle him. I think a lot of heat needs to start going towards Brian Kelly. This is a guy that was hanging his hat there at Notre Dame that I don't have the same kind of access to the elite talent that some of these schools in the South have. Well, here he is. They've recruited extremely well. They got a Heisman contender at quarterback. I know they don't have a defense that's really traditionally what LSU puts out on the field, but man, you got to find a way to quit losing all the big games. I don't know how much longer they're going to put up with it. You get found in the swamp out there.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I think you're starting to. So I'd say Jaden Daniels. He hit his Heisman chances took a hit, and they're
unrealized idea. Yeah. Unrealized.
Yeah. I mean, you just can't.
I hope he's okay, man. That looked like a nasty concussion.
Yeah.
They put him back in the game, which was. Yeah, I mean, there's that. But yeah, his Heisman, they're done. You play a premier team and you can't get it done in the second half, and you throw that pick and it's done.
Michael Penix, right up there again. He's the favorite now. Bo Nix is 2. You might get a rematch.
Yeah, you'll get a rematch. I'm gonna mention a name that just because it's kind of different in terms of the position. I would keep an eye on Marvin Harrison Jr. If they continue to win, and it's like the game against Rutgers where he didn't do a ton for the whole game. He had 2 really huge touchdowns to kind of ice the game and pull away. Yeah. If he continues to put up stats like that, I mean, I think he'll be a dark horse, but right now
I think Jordan Travis is on his pace. He's on pace. He's probably like 5th right now in the odds. He's right behind a JJ McCarthy, which I mean, come on.
Yeah. If I think, 1, maybe 2 more touchdown throws on, Saturday against Pitt without your top, 4 of your top 5 receivers, I think it would have opened a few more eyes.
Yeah.
But
he did put up a career high passing number.
Yeah. They just couldn't get in the end zone.
Let's bring Big Time Noel in, see what he thinks about the game, the trip to Pitt, what to look forward to with Miami. We'll ask him everything where Jordan Travis is and the Heisman. See what his take is on what was the biggest thing he liked about Saturday. I know he's excited about going back to Charlotte, so we'll talk to Big Time Noel when we get back. North Florida Sports Network. All right. Big Time Noel joins the show.
Right here.
Yeah.
Let's go. Get up.
Yeah,
go
get
North.
up, man.
9-0.
9-0. We just like to thank Chris Cotter for joining us.
Cod.
Yeah, he's
Cod on the Codcast.
Yeah, man, on the Codcast. He's about to go do back. Real heavy back lift.
Yeah, I bet.
Man, what was your most impressive thing about the game Saturday?
Just that we finally clinched the Charlotte again, dude. Been trying to get back there forever. ACC title game in Charlotte. It just feels good, man.
It does.
No matter what happens this week, like we're there. No matter what happens next week or the week after, like we're there.
Yeah, it's true, man. Florida State 24-7 win over Pitt.
Definitely left some more points on the board in this one too.
Yeah, but Florida State had some bad news at the start of the game. Keon Coleman was ruled out, and then Johnny Wilson was out as well. So your top 2 receivers gone. And then not only that, you had Hakeem Williams out, Duspan out. So you were shorthanded at the receiver position, and Jordan Travis still threw for 360 yards.
I believe a career high, right?
Yeah, it was a career high. Really, I thought a business-like performance. The defense stepped up. They were, Pitt was 0 for 11 on 3rd down. That's getting it done, man.
I mean, the defense has basically held the last 4 opponents to single digits.
Yep.
I think 4, something like that.
That's what you want to see. Well, we talked to Chris about Louisville, I think that's going to be the matchup in Charlotte. You're talking about Charlotte, and they've had a really good season. They had the one slip up at Pitt, but they just dominated Virginia Tech last week. Louisville looks like the opponent that FSU is probably going to face in Charlotte. Any thoughts on Louisville? Big Time, Noel?
They'll be in the top 10 when we play them.
Yeah, they should be.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
We don't really have any elite wins anymore,
With LSU
Duke's
losing.
falling off, Clemson's falling off, LSU's falling off.
Yeah,
they're all worthy adversaries, but we don't have that elite win to help us jump into playoff rankings.
Really, the parity is it used to be any given Sunday, and now it's any given Saturday. I mean, you can lose a game any week.
Yeah, FSU's best, their best case scenario is for Louisville to just win out, be as highly ranked as possible.
Definitely,
because like you said, there aren't going to be any quote unquote marquee wins when when it gets to it.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we're trying to avoid is Georgia in the first round.
Okay.
Yeah, you're also trying to avoid the unlikely scenario that you get 5 Power 5, unbeatens.
Well, that won't happen because Michigan and Ohio State play each other.
That's true.
It's still, I mean, you
get Georgia, you get Ohio State, or say Michigan.
You'll have Oregon right there slipping into.
The Big 12 blew that. Oklahoma blew that idea, and they lost again to Oklahoma State. So the Big 12 will have the only shot. It's Texas. They'll have to win out.
You don't want to get jumped by Washington, though.
Yeah, Washington. I mean, that could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Nothing to worry about.
If that happens, they should leave out. I mean, that'll leave out.
Let's
one loss, Michigan or Ohio State.
Let's throw this nightmare scenario out here where Michigan beats Ohio State, so they're undefeated. They're obviously in, but Ohio State has all these quote unquote marquee wins. So essentially, what you're coming down to is an undefeated SEC team is definitely in. There's one undefeated team, in the Big Ten that's definitely in. And now you have 3 teams vying for 2 spots. So if Ohio State is definitely going to be taken there, because in that scenario, like I think it's very unlikely Ohio State gets left out. If their only loss is to Michigan, you saw it happen last season, the exact same thing.
Over an undefeated team?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. If it comes down to 2 teams vying for a spot, Washington, Florida State, or Ohio State, there's just as much chance that one of Washington or Florida State get left out and spot for Ohio State.
I'll tell you right now, if you have a undefeated Power 5, you're getting in. And if you lose a game, you're not. You can't not do that. That would be a nightmare situation. But
like all I'm saying is nobody ever expected them to put the preseason number 1 team that went undefeated through the regular season behind 2 one-loss teams.
What's the Big Ten going to do with Michigan, though? I mean,
they're going to
we'll see.
Who cares? Until they do anything, it's just all speculation and rumors and allegations.
I don't see anything happening this season. I think they're just going to let it play out, and then they'll come down hard.
Well, Michigan has already
in late January.
Yeah, they got notice of that punishment was coming, and so Michigan has said, well, if we get punished before the NCAA has done their investigation, we're going to take legal action, and that whole process, like nothing is going to happen this season just because it's going to get tied up in court. There's really no way that they're going to hand down any, actual impactful punishment on Michigan this season. So the thought is they're just continue to win, go into the college football playoffs. Short of Harbaugh coming out, you know what? Yeah, I knew we were cheating. I designed it all. Screw you guys. They're not going to do anything to Michigan. There's too much money at stake.
Right.
Milk steak.
The bottom line is we just have to handle our business.
Yeah.
Miami, North Alabama, and Florida.
Yeah, you got to win out.
One game at a time.
Yeah, that's right, man.
This is the biggest one of the season coming up, essentially.
So far.
Yep.
All right.
Until we're at the Swamp, I'm really hoping that game's at noon.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It'd be nice to get
That's probably the loudest place we play all year, the Swamp.
It would be nice to get a nice sleepy noon game there.
It would. It really would.
We had to go.
Well, we got to get on out of here. Our ride's here, but so you're, I think it's 14.5 is the line for Florida State, Miami.
Is it that big?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. It's kind of high.
Yeah, I mean, Miami looked bad. They looked bad.
I actually haven't got to see
they
them
did.
play
Their
year.
offense looked bad.
Yeah.
Their defense did as much as they could for as long as they could.
Right.
But we'll see.
They have talent. You have to think you're going to get their best effort in the rivalry game, because that's their season.
Yeah.
Absolutely. At this point,
They're going to have. They have talent on that team. They have receivers. Will TVD play? I mean, he he's just up and down, Jekyll and Hyde. Who you going to get? Because you saw him against A&M, carve him up for 5 touchdowns, but then you've seen him against Georgia Tech throw 3 picks and just look terrible.
Threw a couple bad ones against NC State too.
Yeah.
There's something's up with him, man. I still say he's not healthy. They don't have a lot behind him. They just got the freshman.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Ja'Cory Brown has decided to redshirt himself. So they have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster.
Wow.
Yeah. I expect to see a lot of running and attempts by Miami to kind of control clock. Same thing that most teams have tried to. But who knows, man?
The D-line, man, and the linebackers, they're playing fundamentally sound football. They really put up a nice effort this past Saturday. Fiske played really well.
Yeah.
He's a load. I know he got half a sack.
Yeah, well, I say, man, you play Pitt, dude. They're big up front on both sides. It's hard to dominate up there. You got to just kind of get in a long 12-round boxing match with them.
Yep. Well, we got a lot of games to look forward to this week. Big rivalry matchups and big games all across the country. We're going to do our picks tomorrow. Then we got NFL picks Thursday. I'd like to thank Chris Cotter again. Thanks to Jimmy Reno, and thanks big time Noel Jason. And we'll talk to you next time right here on the North Florida Sports Network.
Yo, no.
We had to go. Our ride was here. We got a shuttle to our